Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing NajDra in the 15-minute pool on ICC. NajDra is 1934, and let's see a Sicilian against NajDra. Let's check who this player is. And peak rating of 21, no, I'm sorry. Peak rating of 2025 in the 15-minute pool. 5-minute rating is lower. Let's play a d6. I might just play a NajDra. I'm feeling feisty today. Oh, but then they got to go and play the Moscow variation. Bishop b5 check. So bishop d7 is theory here. I'm going to play a move that doesn't have the best reputation, but could be interesting. Knight d7. And we'll see how this works out. So knight d7 and then d4. Now, if I take on d4, they take with a queen. Now, let's do it anyways. So now, probably knight gf6 would be indicated. And I'll be looking to back this bishop off by playing a6 and just see what it's up to, basically. Okay, so bishop g5, so far developing pretty aggressively. So if I play a6, are they going to take on d7 now? And then if bishop takes, take on f6 and wreck my structure? Might be what he's saying. I'm okay with that possibility. I'll do it. They could also take on f6 first if they wanted.
Check.
But they'll do it this way. I could play knight takes d7 if I wanted to disallow bishop takes f6, but that seems awkward as far as my development's concerned. So let's bite the bullet and play bishop takes d7 and see if they really intend to take here, if they're just going to play something like knight c3 or castles. I think that's actually more likely. They do play knight c3. So maybe now, I'll have to figure out how I want to deal with this bishop problem, because it makes it hard for me to complete my development. Like e6 could always be met by taking on f6, or even e5 ideas. So what to do here? Queen a5 is an option. That doesn't really solve the dilemma, though. e5 weakens the d5 square, so that looks like it's something to be avoided. I will just play e6, looking to play bishop e7 next. I am worried that I'm weakening the d6 square, so that's something that I have to bear in mind. Yeah, and NajDra is playing very straightforward. I have to be very cautious about e5 now. I don't want e5 to blow up into my face. So bishop e7, e5, de, knight takes e5. It looks like trouble. That looks like trouble. Okay, what else could be done here? h6 is possible. But he can just play bishop h4, back it off. Doesn't help. Queen a5 is kind of a radical attempt. I'm neglecting my development, though, once again. Bishop c6 is another move that I could try. But bishop c6, e5, de, at the very least he could play queen takes d8 check. And then rook takes d8, king takes d8, knight takes e5. Although admittedly there I have bishop e8, which probably minimizes any damage. So maybe bishop c6. Maybe. What if bishop c6, e5, d takes e5, queen takes e5? Opening up an attack on my queen, and if I move the queen somewhere, let's say queen b6, he can take on f6 twice. That seems like something I must be concerned about. Well, this looks interesting, so I'm going to play it. He's been moving very quickly up through now. So slow down NajDra for my sake. So this is what can happen if you try to play forcefully against kind of sedate variations, especially when you're black. So after bishop e5 check, like definitely the best move is bishop d7, but it's pretty boring to be honest. And I think black has trouble generating winning chances in a lot of the positions. So knight d7 was just kind of played on a whim to create counter chances, but now I'm going to have to navigate some troubles in the opening. I'm behind in development. I do have the bishop pair, but already I'm having to contemplate all these ways he can open up the position. Okay, rook he1. To me, that looks like a move that might be a little too routine. Like, it makes perfect sense, centralize that last piece, but after bishop e7, I'm nearly fully coordinated. Bishop e7, e5, de, queen takes. That's a better version than I had before. Yeah, okay, gotta play bishop e7. He could take on f6 now, if he wanted. Then I don't have the option of taking with a bishop or just the pawn. I'll have both bishops for my trouble. Because this is sort of like a classical Sicilian in that if they take on f6 and you take back with the bishop, you might not mind giving up the d6 pawn. If that means you can like take on d6 and then take on c3 and then park the king on e7. Then they have a crippled queenside structure. Black might have compensation. So I'll keep that in mind as an option. Plays e5, breakthrough in the center. Okay. Well, I have to take it. There's no dispute about that. So I'm thinking de, queen takes, and then maybe queen b8. Asking him for a queen trade. Seems okay. Yeah. Queen b8 or queen b6, one of the two. Queen b6 would hit f2, but I'm a little leery about allowing that queen to sit on e5 for too long. Okay, he's actually just going for an endgame. I don't agree with this decision. I think he should have played queen takes e5. I will take with the rook.
Check.
Now, if rook takes, probably bishop takes, so that after knight takes e5, I don't have to deal with knight takes f7 at least. Because isn't his trouble here that knight takes e5 runs into bishop takes g2? I think I'm just winning a pawn in that case. I'm not overlooking any tricks, am I? I don't think so. Nor does my bishop get trapped. I can always escape via h3, like say he were to play f3 in this position. Now, if his rook was on d1, he might have rook takes d8 check, king takes d8, knight takes f7. So, like, if he plays rook d1 right now, I was probably going to play bishop e7. Yeah, so he's just he's just backing my bishop off. I think I'll go to h3 because if I go to c6, he has the option of taking and messing up my structure. So there's nothing wrong with h3. Don't think. If bishop h3 is knight e4 troublesome? Bishop h3, knight e4, because then knight d6 is a problem. And if knight takes e4, bishop takes d8, I think would be his point. I could castle there if I wanted. That's a funny move. I could do that. I mean, if I had to play bishop c6, it's not the end of the world. I would just prefer to avoid that move if I can. Then again, I don't know. It allows him to... Not sure how I feel about bishop c6. There's counterattacking moves here I have too, by the way, like bishop c7. But he might go knight takes f7 then. So I don't think I want to mess with that. All right, I'm going to press the issue and play this. I'm being ambitious and trying not to give him any hint of compensation. Knight e4 would be the way to go here if he wants to make it interesting. And after knight e4, I might just be able to play bishop e7, actually. The whole point of knight e4, I think I was describing, was knight takes e4, bishop takes d8, and if I take his bishop, knight takes f7 check, forking the king and the rook. But yeah, maybe knight e4, bishop e7 would have been prudent. f4. If bishop f5, is he going to play bishop h4? Maybe. Bishop b6 hits the rook. Bishop b6 hits the rook. Bishop f5 is what my instincts say here, to cover e4. Let's go bishop f5. No loose pieces. No undefended bishop. We'll stay flexible with the dark square bishop. We'll see if we want to pop it out to b6 or not. Time is a factor. I'm down on time. Don't think it's a big deal as long as I keep my wits about me. Okay, bishop b6. I can come into e3. But I think I like bishop e7 better. It's just tidier. So let's do that. If he moves this knight, I might be able to get knight d5 in. In the short term, though, I just plan to play h6. Or maybe castle. Castles weakens the d7 square, so we'll see if that's any good. But h6 for sure would be useful to back off his bishop. I have a 4-2 majority on the king side. He has a 3-2 on the queen side. Both of us a long ways from being able to utilize that majority. He's ran out of active moves to play here. Knight a4 makes some sense. Trying to get into b6 maybe. But if knight a4, I have that knight d5 move, or h6 first and then maybe knight d5. So now he's begun to think. I believe, looking back, that his two moves, move 10 and 11, rook he1, e5, and also move 12, queen takes d8 check. That was important too. That was a turning point, those three moves. I speculated that rook he1 might not have been accurate. It might be too much of an autopilot move. If it is a mistake, it's not an egregious one. e5, okay, that's expected. But if e5, d takes e5, I really thought he should take with the queen and avoid a queen trade. By the way, I saw a Grandmaster playing in the 15-minute pool yesterday. It was Grandmaster Bones, which is a German Grandmaster. I think his name is Frank Holschke. And I would like to play him. That would be nice if I could catch him sometimes. Looks like he doesn't play that often. Plays maybe a couple times a week. So it'll be tough, but I'll see if I can catch him. Okay, knight e2. So they're trying to use the d4 square. That much is clear. I'm thinking h6 is probably what I'll do. Yeah, h6 is incredibly useful here. So that if bishop h4, I can go knight d5, and f4 will be weak. If I had played knight d5 straight away, it might be more up in the air how weak f4 is. Ooh, I also see an interesting idea involving bishop h4, g5. And then if f takes g5, knight e4, trying to utilize the pin on the bishop. That would be very interesting too. Tentatively, though, I'm leaning towards knight d5. Knight d5, bishop takes e7, king takes e7. He's got to get rid of my knight. So let's say c4, but I can pin him, rook c8. Yeah, that's a difficult pin to relieve. Let's go here. I think this move is good. I'll pre-move this just in case. So now at least I've made way for my rook to come over. Yeah, so I'm thinking this move rook c8 now. Pin and win, that's what they say, right? My bishop is a nice piece. It stops him from playing king b1. So if he wants to alleviate the pin by moving his king, he has to play king d2, which would interfere with his rook. So yeah, that's why he's playing b3. He's trying to come to b2. Now I could just play knight f6 and cover that, but I'm thinking f6 is probably what I should do. Yeah, f6, back his knight off. Then if king b2, I can take on e5. He takes d5. I have rook c2 check, picking up the knight. Yeah, so f6. Let's do that. Knight d4 played instantly. I didn't see that move. Whether it's good or not is a different question entirely, but I didn't see that. Looks like he's trying to confuse me with that move. So if I take e5, he takes f5. I take with a pawn. Rook takes d5. He has then. I can take f4 there, but he has rook takes f5. I'm up 2 pawns then, but he still has a majority. I could move my bishop. What else could I do? Knight e3 maybe? Or knight takes f4? Ah, knight takes f4. Knight takes f4. Knight takes f5 check. E takes f5. If he comes into d7, I have king e6. That's convenient. Yeah, that looks really good, doesn't it? Knight takes f4. Does he have any other tricks? I don't think so. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the d7 square, but I don't see any tricks that he has. Yeah, let's do this move. I don't think the risk is so great here. We'll pre-move that just in case. I mean, for him to have to retreat this knight is a failure for his position. So I know he's not going to want to do that. But his most active try, like rook d7 here, just runs into king e6, and I think I'm just winning a piece. So he might be forced to play knight f3 as much as he doesn't want to. Knight f3, he could come to d4 or h4 then. So my work is not going to be completely over with at that point. So knight f3, maybe I'll play rook d8. That's what I'm thinking. Offer a trade. I could play b5 as well. b5, knight d4. It's probably good. Yeah, that's fine. Rook d8 is simpler, though. Let's go rook d8. I doubt he wants to trade. Knight d4 just immediately loses down to rook takes d4. And then rook takes d4, knight e2. I don't think he wants to trade rooks with me. Yeah, and he fell for it. This is a nice trap. So I was kind of playing off the fact that he didn't want to trade rooks. And if he moved his rook anywhere, I was going to have something good too. So, and he resigned. All right, let's have a look at this one. So, another game where it seems like a theme of a lot of games I've played, not necessarily the standard games, but other games I've had. I've been speculating a lot in the opening lately. I don't know. I've just I felt like doing stuff that I normally wouldn't do. It makes for interesting viewing, if anything. So this move, knight d7 on move 3, it's risky. But bishop d7, bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, which is the theoretical line, can produce some dry positions. And that's why I wanted to avoid it. Like here, white can play c4, followed by d4, trying to take the game into Maraxi bind territory without a pair of bishops. Very drawish line. They can also try to play this more aggressively, too, if they don't want to go for c4. And, by the way, queen takes d7 is correct here because c6 is the natural square for the knight. Knight takes d7 is more efficient, but the knight is better off on c6. That's a problem I encountered in the game, too, by playing knight d7, which, yes, it gives me a good chance of getting the bishop pair, but after d4, c takes, queen takes, it is irritating for me that I can't put the knight on c6 to eject his queen. So the knight on d7 is kind of a poor piece in this regard. So a6, bishop takes. Yeah. I think this position is critical because if he's going to break in the center, to me, e5 looks dangerous or more dangerous here than it does after the inclusion of bishop e7. Rook he1, bishop e7. Because let's say he plays e5 here. Then d takes e5. Well, for one thing, he could trade queens, and we get a position similar to the game, except that after knight takes e5, I would have to watch the f7 pawn. In the game, I didn't have to watch the f7 pawn as much because my king was on e8. So here, I don't think I can get away with bishop takes g2. He just plays rook g1. And there's a double attack going on. So I was planning on playing bishop e8 here, and just kind of hunkering down and using my two bishops and trying to coordinate. But is black better here? I doubt it. I mean, I might even be worse if I'm not careful. So that's one option. The other option for him after e5, d takes e5, is just to take with the queen. Queen takes e5, which is more dangerous. Because now the queen is attacked by the rook. Queen e7 looks horribly awkward. That does defend f6, but there's no way I would have played queen e7. So here I would have had to choose between like queen b8 or queen d6. Or I wonder if I could do knight d7, as weird as that looks, attacking the queen. So if bishop takes d8, knight takes e5, knight takes e5. Ooh, actually, no, I can't do this because I just lose material to a similar tactic as earlier. So what was I thinking about after e5, de, queen takes e5? I mean, maybe just sacking a pawn. Like queen b6, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, queen takes, and then rook g8. Hoping that my bishop pair provides some compensation. But this is sketchy. I mean, maybe now just rook he1. And a bishop here, already rook takes e6 is looking dangerous. I guess I won't get into this line too much, but I just thought at the very least he should consider e5 right here. Let's see how fast he played rook he1. Okay, so he spent, I don't know, 45 seconds on that move, let's say. But now let's see what the computer says. Yep, e5. de, queen takes. Computer says the craven queen e7 is the best move. Oh, now it changed to queen b6. But you see, like, +2. Or somewhere in that vicinity. I mean, just the inclusion of rook he1 and now bishop e7, suddenly that advantage is more manageable. Like now, I think my disadvantage is within manageable boundaries. e5, de, and I really didn't like queen takes d8. Yeah, that's clearly a mistake. I think he has to continue with queen takes e5. And I was thinking about this move, queen b8. See how nice it is now that f6 isn't hanging? We were looking at this position, but with the bishop back on f8 and this over on h1. But now bishop takes f6 doesn't bother me in the slightest. I just take back. So watch those autopilot moves. And rook moves to the center, classic autopilot moves. Those are the moves that people make just on general principles because they know rooks belong in the center. But at higher levels, they can easily be identified as mistakes many times. So even rook moves to the center have to be purposeful. It's not enough to say, like, well, let's just do this because we're supposed to do this.
Check.
That's good advice for a lot of people, but I think once you get into a rating range like this guy, you have to start thinking about stuff like that. So
check.
Rook takes d8, bishop takes d8. Yeah, and this is a very nice ending for me. Extremely pleasant. So knight takes e5, and I took on g2. I wonder if rook takes e5 changes anything. Oh, I have this. And then knight d7, attacking his rook, and discovered attack on his bishop on g5. And his rook has run out of squares that it can go to on the 5th rank to guard the bishop. So he's losing an exchange. So bishop takes d8, knight takes e5, bishop takes g2, rook g1. Yep, played bishop h3. You see, I'm still using some time, maybe a little more time than I should be using, but I wanted to make sure I consolidated my advantage because I very much sensed that white had gone wrong at this point, so I want to make the most of my opportunity here. So bishop f5. Well, let's check that knight e4 move. This is kind of just a flashy move, but hey, it might be his best chance. Knight e4. With the main point being that knight takes e4 can be responded to with bishop takes d8, and if I take with a king, then knight takes f7 is bad for me. So after bishop takes d8, I was thinking about castling even. It does look like it's an option, and I'll stay up a pawn, although there's opposite colored bishops on board. So that gives him some optimism for a draw, perhaps. Yeah, I would have tried knight e4 if I were him. I get the sense he didn't look at it, as he played this still again pretty quickly. f4 doesn't really help, though. If anything, f4 just becomes another target. So, yeah, knight e4 should have been tried at least. Bishop e7. Yep, h6. g5 would have been interesting here. Idea of g5 is after takes to move this knight and exploit the pin. So I think I mentioned knight e4. I didn't go for this because I thought that knight d5 was even easier. That seems to be the case. I mean, knight d5, although objectively probably just as strong as g5, or maybe even less strong than g5, it just seems like a more cohesive move to me. Get these bishops traded, and then it's key that after c4 I have this rook c8 move. Now I'm fully developed. It costs him at least 2 tempos to get out of the pin now without blocking his rook. So he played b3 and f6. I didn't see knight d4 as I was saying, but it turns out it's probably not a good move. Bishop h7 is good here. Anything wrong with this? Doesn't look like it.
Check.
Take, knight f3. Yeah, b5 was a move I considered, but rook d8, I think I'm fine with this. That's interesting that if he trades rooks, it's only -1.5 or 2, despite black having a 2-pawn advantage. Yeah, it's because these pawns are double. They're difficult to advance. It'll take a few tempos to organize them. But it should be a win for black, this endgame. But maybe that's what he should have done. Traded rooks, or... I was thinking, like, if he checks me, then king f7. It's annoying because I have knight d3. And once he addresses that, I can just play g5 real quickly. Once these pawns start rolling, if he doesn't have a pass pawn of his own, like, ready to do some serious damage, he's not going to survive. So... But as played, after knight d4, I got this cute tactic, rook takes d4, and he resigned in view of knight e2. All right, so lessons from this game. Be very careful when you're playing sidelines like this, knight d7. This is a line that OTB, I wouldn't venture this unless I had more knowledge about it. And I was confident that I could create counter chances against low-rated opposition. I would not play knight d7 against someone my own rating or higher, most likely. Also, watch those autopilot moves, like rook he1. It's so easy to justify a move like that in your head, and even in analysis, you might not think it's a mistake, but pretty clearly here, that was a mistake. e5 would have put me under much more pressure, every tempo counts when I'm this far behind in development. So rook he1 was a big slip-up, turning point in the game. And also, not taking with the queen on e5. Queen takes d8, playing for the endgame is not going to help him. That's exactly what I want to see here as black. So I hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I'll be back tomorrow with another standard game. Hope you guys have a good Monday. Thanks for watching. Bye.